Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast, and it is volume 2 of a winner's podcast, if you will. It is, it feels good. And, as they say in the words of John Candy.
And with that, Rowan Gardner extends the Cubs to their longest winning streak of the season. 2.
It is a 2-game winning streak. It does kind of qualify as a winning streak. But yeah, victory podcasts are always a great thing. But thank you guys so much for helping on with us. Make sure you hit that follow button for at Manely Broncos. If we haven't already, we will make sure to do so. Make sure you follow the guys. Make sure you follow Matty Mulls at Matty Mulls Pod, along with Brandon at Brandon Miller PO. We got a great show, of course, lined up for you. And as we said, it's a victory podcast. So there is going to be a lot to talk about. And of course, positive vibes only, right? When the Broncos are on a 2-game winning streak. But gentlemen, before we dive into obviously this game and the Broncos having a 2-game winning streak, how are we doing, gents? Are the vibes immaculate for this 2-game winning streak? We'll start with you, Matty.
The vibes are extremely immaculate. A 10-9 win. It was gross. It was ugly, but a lot of people said this week, and I agree. I'd rather win ugly than lose pretty. And even a Hall of Fame quarterback, multiple-time league MVP, said the conditions were gross. So maybe let's cut our rookie quarterback just a little bit of slack.
And Brandon, you're rocking the Broncos hat with Mr. Bo Nix in the background. What's up, buddy?
Yo, what up? Yeah, I don't know if I would say the vibes are immaculate. The vibes were nail-biting and disgusting and gross. And the quote that I want to say, I feel like I shouldn't say, but the vibes were something. It was a game. It was definitely a football game that was played, that exists, that happened. But no, I mean, I agree with Matty though. Like, I'll take the win no matter how ugly it is, but just like, damn, it was ugly.
It was, and I think the way that I kind of described it was, I felt like a video gamer who just video gamed for like 24 hours. Like I feel sweaty, and I think that, and I said this on the 5280 podcast last night. I think the number one takeaway for me and, with this game was that the Broncos don't win this game 8 years ago. I should say even over the course of 8 years, they don't win that kind of game. And especially even just from the Jets' perspective, the games that the Broncos have had with the Jets when when Zach Wilson was quarterback, and obviously with Sam Darnold, when the Broncos did get that, win on Thursday Night Football with Broncos legend Brett Rippon starting. I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, so to scratch and claw your way to a victory, yeah, it wasn't pretty. But you really do take wins, any chance you can get them. And you got to say something feels a little bit different with this team. And they finally had a chance to be possibly 2 playoff contender teams, right, in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I should say maybe division leading, if you will, by the end of it with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We'll see how it all shakes out. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then you go out and you play against the team that is led by a 40-year-old quarterback and future Hall of Famer in Aaron Rodgers, and you actually, shut him down and had, and came away with the victory. I mean, it was just like at the end of the day, a win is a win. But yeah, you definitely will take it. Absolutely.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers did not look great in that game either. I mean, he had considerably more passing yards, although if you go back and really study that pass that I'm not gonna lie, it was an insane pass that he made along the sideline to Garrett Wilson. Just ridiculous pass. The pass before that was also great. Like, he had some crazy throws. But if you go back and watch the one on the sideline, it was definitely not caught. Like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day because we won, but the first body part that came down for Garrett Wilson for the receiver was his knee, and it was clearly out of bounds. So, but no, I mean, it was a tough game in very wet conditions. I mean, I feel like on the one hand, I'm like, okay, I understand people wanting to factor that in or not wanting to factor that in, I should say, and say like, oh, well, that's something that Bo needs to get used to. It's like, oh, he's never played in, or that's not the way to quote it. Basically, they were saying like, it looks like he's never played in rain before, and that's not true. And then they also draw the connection to like, well, he plays in Denver now. He's going to have to get used to it. But I mean, there was some tough passes as well on the other side of the game as well from a Hall of Fame quarterback. So I think you can note it down, but I'm not going to look too closely at it.
Yeah,
had some second pass or second half passes were better, but he had some very impressive, two very impressive specifically passes on the drive that ended in a touchdown. One of them being the touchdown, but it was gross. Like, he ended up with 60 passing yards. Like, that's not great, Bob.
All the wide receivers except Cortland Sutton combined for 0 yards. And, Cortland Sutton obviously, got the 60 yards. And as Gonzo points out, the foot was out, meaning Garrett Wilson. And then obviously the one that would have been the backbreaker was the Jonah Ellis fumble recovery for a touchdown, because that was a fumble recovery. And obviously the reason why the Broncos could not have challenged that was, well, because they had lost their challenges. So that was going to end up being the backbreaker if, something like that happened. Gotta say though, I was kind of surprised though, that even without the challenges, that was a scoring play, right? That was a scoring play with Ellis in the end zone. So I was kind of surprised that we did not get a chance to see an official review. Like, the refs kind of huddle up and be like, okay, let's take a look at this. And they did not. And it ended up not being an official review.
Well, yeah, they blew the play dead. And so as soon as that happens, like, it's done. They should have let the play continue,
but yeah.
And then if every turnover they could review on their own, it doesn't even have to be a scoring play. I don't think. I think every change of possession can warrant somebody from upstairs reviewing the play. So, I don't know why they wouldn't err on the side of caution if they weren't 100% sure that the player was down and that it wasn't a fumble. You just let it continue. Then you can go to replay after the fact.
Yeah.
So,
let's talk about the big positives right out of the gate, guys. Let's talk about the big positive, and that is this suffocating. It seems like the great word for it, suffocating, has been this Denver Broncos defense through 4 weeks of the regular season. I mean, and this Broncos defensive line might be as good as as it's been defensively up front.
Not if you ask Pro Football Focus.
Zach Allen specifically. But
Zach Allen should honestly be in the. I'm not even kidding when I say he should be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year.
Why? PFF hates him.
But the point is that, like, they've not really been that good and that deep necessarily since maybe 2015, as far as like with what they've had on that interior. you'd even argue it's been deeper because, you got guys like Malcolm Roach, Jordan Jackson getting some run. DJ Jones is seeing a bit of a resurgence as well, which has been so beneficial having the other guys play well. And obviously it's been led by Zach Allen and John Flington Myers. And, let's start there as far as like one of the keys on that defensive line, because Brandon, one of your keys when we had talked about it with, Scott Mason to play like a Jet was, and actually was kind of like all of ours, but it was the running game. That running game, that nasty, nasty running game of Braylon Allen and Breece Hall, who is a top duo, a top running back duo in the National Football League. They were non-existent. Like the defensive line neutralized them from start to finish. And actually, it was really Breece Hall who was completely ineffective in the entire.
I know. I have him on fantasy. So I was both somewhat annoyed, but also like relieved at the same time. No, that was. Look, I mean, on the borderline anniversary of the game that Sean Levy mentioned against the team that has a sea animal as their logo, that was an insane performance against the run. And like that kind of game it was weird because I feel like on the broadcast view and the camera, just ignore the bed that's popping up behind me because my background sucks. It feels like you couldn't really see how detrimental the weather was. Like you could kind of see some rain, but from what I've heard from people that were actually there, like it was a downpour. I think one person said that they should have evacuated the stands. So that kind of just to me screams like one of those run the ball every single play. And when you have a duo like Braylon Allen and Breece Hall, they're probably going to combine for like 40 touches, right? That didn't happen. That didn't happen at all, which was just kind of honestly weird to see, but that didn't happen because they couldn't get anything going. Breece Hall averaged 0.4 yards per carry. Braylon Allen was a bit better. But yeah, I mean, that was just an insane defensive performance, defensive masterclass from the Broncos. And specifically from Vance Joseph. Like Vance Joseph is an absolute madman. What was it? The first play of the game, he sent like 7 rushers or something.
Yeah,
absolutely insane.
And Justin Sternad got the tackle.
That PJ Locke blitz on the backside. Oh my gosh, I was having visions of Steve Atwater against Brett Favre in the Super Bowl. Just kind of like with how that was dialed up right at the perfect time.
Yeah.
The pressure was incredible. I said the keys to the game were going to be the running backs, both running the ball and out of the backfield, and Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin got 8 targets, but he only converted 4 of those for 17 yards. So very good coverage from our linebackers. And Breece Hall, 2 catches for 14 yards on 5 targets. Braylon Allen, 1 catch for 12 yards on 1 target. So they combined for 21 touches between those 2 running backs. That's not going to get it done. 21 touches for those backs and 42 pass attempts for Aaron Rodgers. That's not really the formula that you're looking for here if you're the Jets. We gave Javonte Williams 16 carries and Jaleel McLaughlin 9 carries. So those guys combined for more touches than the Jets guys combined for. And if you would have told me that going into the game, I'd have felt very good about our chances.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if you were picking between both sides of the running game, between the Jets running game and the Broncos running game, which one you would have trusted more, I think we could all agree we would have trusted the Jets running game a little bit more. And I think that's why it's so good to talk about this running game from the defensive side of things. But then on the Broncos flip side of things, guys, that was vintage Javonte Williams. I mean, like he had
Javonte Williams got in a DeLorean and hit 88 miles an hour.
Bam style.
Yeah, basically. And like he had a few games here and there, right? You know what I mean? Like he had some few games here and there last year. But like that was like vintage Javonte against the Jets. And I think that specifically when you got a chance, and obviously, it's been mentioned, quite a few times, but him carrying Sauce Gardner, like 4 or 5 yards down the field, like that was vintage Javonte. He was decisive, and and I think that's one of the things and one of the areas that have been so lacking was the moment that a hole was there, he would kind of take a little bit of some time to develop with Javonte, and he was really smart with how he was able to hit the holes in Jaleel too. I mean, like they were quick, they were shifty, and maybe the whole reason is that Big Mike is maybe the reason why.
Mike, man, never take it off.
Yeah,
keep it on. Sleep in that thing.
Sleep in it. Don't wash it.
No, you can't wash it.
You can't even wash it.
Just shower before you put it on.
Maybe when you go into the shower with the jersey on.
There you go. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Yeah.
So,
did you say 1 scone or stone?
Stone.
Oh, it's like,
bruh, scone. You can't take that into the shower, bro.
I don't know. Man.
Victory shot.
Victory shot. I got some pretend. This is actually vodka. Yeah.
Is it?
Can't even see it.
Is it? Okay. So, cheers, Slancha.
Yeah. And then obviously Lance kind of pulls it back into the offensive line discussion, and I think that's where it gets to be so fun when you peel it back about how good this running game has been, particularly the interior offensive line, and then you add in the newcomer of the mix, guys. Now let's briefly touch on this because the emergence of Alex Pavlovsky is going to create some interesting things for this Denver Broncos team. I tweeted out today like a couple of my scenarios of what I see happening. Spoiler alert, they don't involve Garrett Bowles in terms of the long-term plans. But the way that I kind of see this, and you guys can interject in the chat, and Brandon and Matty, you can feel like you can interject here, but Alex Pavlovsky is pushing it to where you keep him at right tackle, and then you make the decision of whether you want to move Mike McGlinchey to left tackle or you sit, in air quotes, sit Mike McGlinchey for the rest of the season. You play out the contract for Garrett Bowles, and then you give Mike McGlinchey the full season, the full off season, and reps where he can be able to learn and get a chance to become that left tackle contractually, because contractually he's not going anywhere. I don't necessarily think a team would be wanting to take on that contract necessarily. So I think that the Broncos are entering a window here where you could see something happening here where they do keep Pavlovsky right there at right tackle, given his performance. It's 2 games. You certainly don't want to read too much into it, but progress is progress. And after 2 weeks of the season, you got to call it for what it is, guys. He's playing like an all-pro.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go with all-pro level, but he definitely looks like a starter for sure. And it's like really cool to see and good for him. I have a hard time understanding what this team's going to do. I don't know if they decide to. I think it depends on what we see in the next few games, and like, can the running game continue? Because the biggest thing with Mike McGlinchey is he's a great run blocker, not as good in pass blocking, pass protection, which is where Pavlovsky has been really good, and not that he's not been good in the running game. But if we can't sustain the running game like we've kind of been able to do it against the Jets, it wouldn't surprise me, to the detriment of maybe a lot of fans, if they put Mike McGlinchey back in. We'll see, but I think it's really nice to know that you have a guy that can fill in very well. And it's almost even better to know that we have a guy that we could replace McGlinchey with potentially. But yeah, I mean, I'll be curious to see what they do. Is it possible that they continue to keep Pavlovsky there for the rest of the season? Absolutely. I don't know if Mike McGlinchey can go to left tackle.
He played in college, but that
no, if that's, yeah, but I mean, that's like a different sport, like basically at this point. But like, I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. But he is almost 30. Like that was not recently. But it is definitely an intriguing proposition. I think the other thing that obviously depends on this is like, does Bowles improve and kind of show that he's the tackle that he had turned into after some struggles early in his career, which is like a just solid left tackle, borderline great left tackle in the league. Not been that way so far, but can he get back to that? I think we'll see. But it's definitely an interesting idea.
Yeah. Matty?
So Mark Schlereth said that switching sides of the line, it's playing a whole different position. So everybody
someone said it's like,
hold on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Everybody goes and everybody takes a dump, right? Everybody poops and we all wipe our ass. So next time you go to the bathroom, wipe your ass with the other hand. And I think that's kind of close to what the quote was.
That's what the quote was. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's so foreign to you. It's the same thing, but it's flipped, it's reversed. And something as simple as that requires some hardwiring in your brain. Imagine having to fire off the line, and instead of knowing your help was coming from the left side, now that's the vulnerable side, and maybe you don't have extra help inside of you, on that side. Maybe there's not going to be somebody chipping on that side or whatever. That it's completely different. And I think it's probably easier to do on the interior of the line. Certainly has to be more difficult doing that on the exterior of the line when you're going against elite pass rush. Now, for this week at least, we're not going to have to go against the freaking ghoul that is Max Crosby.
We think.
Most likely. So that would be a big relief. That would be a big help. Not having to go against that guy.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was actually rudely trying to interrupt you to mention, because I got excited. That was actually the other quote. I think it was maybe by a different person that was talking about the same thing. I don't remember, but it's like wiping with the other hand. And that's kind of why I was like wanting to bring up like, hey, I don't know if that would necessarily be the route that they take, because McGlinchey hasn't wiped with that hand since 2017. Let's just continue to use that analogy. But that's definitely the fact that we don't have to, knock on wood, so far as we know, play against Crosby is going to change this game. We don't have to play against Devontae Adams, most likely. And the fact that Josh Jacobs is no longer on the Raiders, so he can't run for 150 yards and two touchdowns against us anymore, is going to hit different.
Zamir White's not in either.
Zamir White has not even been good, except for that one game against us. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I want to see, like, if Palczewski keeps this up, I'm going to be so excited. That's just the borderline. That's kind of what it boils down to. But he's been a revelation, to be honest, at right tackle. Like, we have been starved.
Yeah, obviously we do this stream every Wednesday, and at least our expectation is that we think that Max Crosby, will not play. But as we said, we're streaming this on Wednesday, and to quote Draft Day, we will be living in a completely different world than we will 5 minutes from now. So, there have been players, not saying it's Crosby, but there have been players where, they haven't been practicing all week, and then they try it out on Saturday and Sunday. Like, yeah, we're good. All right, cool. I'll play on Sunday.
Also on that list of players that did not practice today, including Max Crosby, is Colton Miller. So I think we're going to continue to see the Broncos pass rush just do disgusting
Can we
things.
Talk about, look, I mean, obviously the Broncos it's not their, they're not doing this in the sense of like, giving bad juju to the other team and basically not having their, starting tackle, play. Like the tackles aren't basically saying, oh, I don't want to play because like here comes that Broncos defensive line. But can we at least acknowledge the last, like, should I say the last couple weeks that it's been? And then now it appears like Cole Miller, is going to maybe be the same thing. So you have, Gadecki from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who was injured. He didn't end up playing. It ended up being Tristan Wirfs. But I mean, to Wirfs, credit, he's a great player, but also to the defensive line credit of the Broncos, they just went nuts, even against Tristan Wirfs. And then obviously Morgan Moses of the Jets was supposed to be starting, and he wasn't even starting. And then now you go forward another week where, possibly Colton Miller, isn't going to play. It's just, yeah, it is kind of crazy with specifically this tackle position, how things transpired with that.
Let me ask you a hypothetical question here. And I know like my answer to this already. Based on what he's done here through 4 weeks, should we just write Jonathan Cooper a check now? Because I'm thinking yes.
Yeah. Matty, you go first on that.
I'd still want it to be incentive laden quite a bit. Health is an issue, and I need to see it for more than a few games. But what we see when he's healthy and he's on the field is elite. The numbers are elite. They speak for themselves. The graph itself or the chart has to be blown up just to fit him on the top right portion. Like, it's ridiculous, the efficiency that he's having on a snap-by-snap basis. That being said, too often we see guys go off for a few games or a stretch or even a season, and then they get a big deal and maybe they don't live up to it, and maybe the health isn't there for them. So while I certainly do not want him to walk out the door, and especially not for nothing, I know we got money, but I'm very apprehensive to just throw it around yet. Now, if we could get a discount in season, like, it kind of depends on what the numbers look like.
So what would
the main reason right now I'm saying yes is like, if he continues to do this, the number's just going to go up. It doesn't even matter about his like injury history. It doesn't matter. He's going to get paid.
Yeah. And so then Matty, to kind of put you on the hot seat there, you're in the, you're basically George Payton in the front office for 5 minutes. You're writing this check for Jonathan Cooper. What does that contract look like?
4 years, 18 mil, probably, with incentives to get higher and some type of like a guarantee. So
you're basically paying him almost close to Edge 1 money.
I mean, well, but with the numbers going up, in a couple years it won't be. But like, I still think that we probably need one more dog there. Maybe even a quote unquote alpha. Although it looks like we have a lot of guys vying for that position,
which is a good thing.
It certainly is. It's just, man, like, you can't lowball him because with this production, he's not like it. The conversation may have to start at 4 for 20. It may start for 4 for not 20, like total 20 a year, or 21 or 22 a year, something like that, with some serious guarantees, maybe like 48 million guaranteed or something. So
as it stands right now, if you pay him 20 million per year, that's smack dab right in the middle between Von Miller and Joey Bosa on the edge contracts.
Not quite Joey, but better than Vaughn. It sucks to say it, but and Vaughn's gone for 4 weeks. I don't know if we want to talk about that at all. But.
Damian mentions how is that defensive coordinator, and that's a nice conversation too. That would be Vance Joseph. he will be getting a very long apology letter from myself, Brandon, Matty, and all the Broncos country for how we treated him, ever since he left Denver. And because right now, to quote Glenn Hauser from, yesterday on 5280, he is having the time of his life. Right.
Oh, Vance Joseph is absolutely having the time of his life right now.
Where's Sergio Dip when you need him?
I don't know, man. You got to come back.
But specifically to answer your question, Damian, the Broncos are blitzing at about the same,
almost 50% of the time.
Yeah, close to about 50% of the time, and they're getting home. I don't think we're exaggerating this, but 3/4 of the time, they're getting home. And even with what we were just talking about there with Jonathan Cooper, they're getting contributions from nearly everyone. And when we say everyone, we're saying Boomer Sooner, Nick Benito is getting home. That's that premium and what looks to be a really good speed rusher is getting home. You also have, really well-timed and schemed up blitzes from the linebackers, and it really doesn't matter who's there. Either it be, the loss of Alex Singleton, but Cody Barton never missed a beat against the New York Jets. Justin Strnad, a special team, specialist, if you will, came in and was able to create a lot of problems just from both of those middle linebacker spots. And then you get a little bit more creative with how Vance has been, and a true madman, which is that maybe that symbiotic relationship with he and Leonard, Jim Leonard, where they're blitzing safeties. They're blitzing PJ Locke, they're blitzing Brandon Jones, like they're creating a lot of pressure from even that safety spot. So they're coming basically from every angle right now.
Dude, Justin Strnad, let me just give some kudos to this man right now, because I feel like when we first drafted him out of Wake Forest in 2020, like he was kind of billed as like, oh, he's the tight end coverer, tight end killer that we haven't had because he's so athletic, and then he kind of just like did almost nothing.
He was a converted linebacker from safety, I think.
I think so. And then he just like was very hit or miss. Like he didn't really do much his first few years, but he was an absolute baller against the Jets. Him and Cody Barton, both of those guys have looked. They did like. I know we've lost some linebackers, but they didn't even skip a beat putting those guys in there. So again, credit to both of them, and credit to Vance Joseph, because Vance Joseph is looking like, honestly, the best defensive coordinator in the NFL right now. And I don't think that's a stretch.
Between he and Brian Flores.
Brian Flores is up there too.
Yeah.
Is Joseph our defensive coordinator next year?
I don't know, man. I talked about this earlier, I think last week, it was before the Jets game even. And I was like, I didn't talk about it. I made a post about it, basically saying like, I'm pretty confident that Vance Joseph is going to get another head coaching job if he wants it. A bunch of people came back and were like, no, he's not. He doesn't want to do that again. I'm like, well, how do you know?
We don't.
If he wants it, I'm pretty sure he'll have opportunities. Does he want it? I don't know. I think he absolutely, if he wants to do it again, I think he'll have people calling. And you know what? I hate it. I'm sick of losing good defensive coordinators, man.
Yeah.
Dang it.
What do you have to say about that? Because you asked the question. What do you have to say?
Yeah, he's gone. I mean, especially if this keeps up. Look, myself included, I did not see a runway for a very successful season in the wins and losses column. Certainly by a lot of the advanced metrics for this team. And offensively, there is a lot of work to be done. But defensively, everybody is starting to take notice. They're saying like they're legit, like they're elite. Riley Moss getting credit like for what he's doing opposite of PS2. Yeah. We have all these guys that have been written off, and they're just all performing. And it really works from the inside out. Even our defensive line has just been incredible, being able to hold at the point of attack and being able to beat their guy one-on-one. It's doing a lot defensively. Our guys are schemed in the right positions. Like for all the things that went wrong with Joseph in Arizona, specifically with like an Isaiah Simmons not being able to find a use for him, Budda Baker was still pretty damn good with Joseph, and he put certain guys in good positions. It's like this team is too young in a lot of spots to like not know any better, and so they just buy into the system, and it's all working. So I gotta say, like, yeah, he's gonna be on the short list at a minimum.
Yeah,
for a lot of jobs, and I think that he takes it because this is his last best chance to be a head coach.
I'm assuming this was in correlation to him saying hell yeah to him taking a job when Todd Davis asked him that question. I'm assuming. Feel free to let us know in the comments. So yeah, I go back and forth on it because it's like, and I think that the way Brandon prefaced it is in the case like, because we don't know his intentions. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know his intentions.
Intentions could change.
But most definitely. But we also know that we also, not to beat a dead horse with the ownership and everything, but you know, they do have the Broncos have a very wealthy ownership group to where they can throw a head coach type money, you know, to a defensive coordinator.
Can we find a different expression? I don't know what it will be, but that horse is alive and well.
Okay, Peter. Okay, Peter.
Well, I mean, we're the Broncos, so like I feel like we kind of we're not playing the Dolphins last year anymore. Like let's move on.
But anyway, like, you know, Sean Payton has really prided himself specifically when he was with New Orleans in defensive coordinator stability. Now I don't know if that has any trend. If that has any trend to continue here in Denver, but maybe that was a conversation that had already been had with Vance Joseph and Sean Payton. Because again, like we're not in that room, but the other part of this is maybe he views Denver itself, you know, is like the room, like the place for him to grow as, you know, a coach and as a defensive coordinator. Not necessarily a head coach, but like he has always loved Denver. And I think that, you know, if you guys ever get a chance, obviously you can probably go on Max and rewatch all the Hard Knocks, you know, episodes and shows and everything. If you get a chance, go watch the episode specifically when it was the Cardinals series where they go play the Broncos. They get a chance and sit down with Vance Joseph, and it's pretty evident there was no ill will when he had left Denver. His family has a place here. So I think that there is, and obviously we're explaining this in week 4, a lot can change, but there's so much that can go on between becoming a head coach and then still kind of staying here, you know. So I think that we also have to remember too, the Broncos were on a 5-game winning streak, right? We're in week 4 of the regular season, so not quite 5 games yet. And the defense is playing nearly as good, if not better, in that stretch right now to begin the season. So
they're not getting the same takeaways, but I would say it's I would honestly say it's better because it's more sustainable.
It feels like it's a little bit more sustainable because of the fact they're not creating turnovers.
Yeah, you can't keep up that amount of turnover creation. So I think they're playing better.
It sounds stupid to say it, but I believe it. I would rather consistently get sacks than turnovers for long-term viability, because turnovers can be fickle. But getting pressure on the quarterback, getting to the quarterback, it can have the same effect. If you've got a strong enough defense, getting a sack and putting a team 7, 8, 9 yards behind the sticks, and they're looking at 2nd and 19, or they're looking at 3rd and 13. You're almost turning them over on downs there anyway. And then you're also getting the benefit of legally hitting the quarterback. So there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, Rodgers is in pain right now. Well, and then there's also the age-old saying of pressure creates picks, right? I mean, like the more pressure you can get on the quarterback. It's sacked 5 times, but I think the official quarterback hits number was 14. The more pressure you can get on him, the more likely he is to make a mistake. So I do think that, again, I agree with Matty. I would rather take consistent pressure because you can turn that into turnovers. That can lead to turnovers, as opposed to what we were doing before. It's like, we were getting picks, but we were also getting a lot of forced fumbles that, like, you just can't count on that. So again, like I would agree. Like, I think keeping consistent pressure and having a consistent pass rush is the way to go. And like, I'm just so happy about this pass rush. I can't even like stop talking about it because I don't even remember the last time that we've had a pass rush that's this good. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, and you pointing to your super the Super Bowl 50.
That's hard. I don't know how weather people do it. Like, I'm all jacked up, and I'm using my left hand. Normally, I point with my right.
You're playing a different position on the offensive line.
Yeah. I get Bo Nix killed at left tackle. So,
and I think that obviously we would be remiss if we didn't get a chance to talk about the other part of this defense, and that would be that secondary. Look, through 4 weeks of the regular season, you've got something that could very well replicate, the No Fly Zone 2.0, and everybody that is on social media that is a team. Look, you can say No Fly Zone all you want. It's been trademarked by the Denver Broncos when they had the No Fly Zone. But like the Broncos secondary room is just nasty right now. Like you could argue they have maybe 3 cornerback ones with the performance that they have in the first 3 weeks of the season. You have Riley Moss, who's emerging, and actually I think it seems like he's getting really, really close right now to getting an interception. Like it seems like it's only a matter of time before he gets that. Especially with the amount of targets that he's getting his direction. He's gluey in coverage. Like it's just it seems like the dam is about to break where he's going to be getting an interception. And then you got Pat Surtain where, we were just praising Vance Joseph for creating a lot of the pressures. Well, what has been one of the other gripes, whether it's been Vance Joseph or, one of the other defensive coordinators that the Broncos have had, is that whenever they have had a shutdown corner, can that shutdown corner finally mirror that team's number one wide receiver? And Vance finally has been able to very much, in the way of thinking, use Pat Surtain and, basically go toe-to-toe, snap for snap with the offense's number one wide receiver. Garrett Wilson, Mike Evans, George Pickens, and DK Metcalf have been neutralized through 4 weeks of this regular season. I mean, look, it is 4 weeks of the regular season, but Pat Surtain, even with no interceptions, is playing like a defensive player of the year candidate right now.
Yeah. He's just absolutely ridiculous. And I don't think it can be honestly even overstated how much having a legitimate cornerback 2 in Riley Moss is going to also help him, because before it was like, okay, yeah, just don't throw to Pat Surtain, go after whoever the other corner is, because pretty much up until this year, like you got PS2 and then you have some guy like on the other side of the field that's not even close to as good, and you could just bully him. And that's not the case anymore. Like Riley Moss, yeah, he still has some growing pains. Personally, I think the pass interference in the end zone was complete BS. I think the other one, I kind of see it. Yeah. But he's been absolutely amazing, and I think that he can only help Surtain, and I think Surtain can only help him. So that is we got a dare I say, we have a Chris Harris Jr. Aqib Talib situation.
Maybe. I mean, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves.
I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that would be nice.
But Matty, obviously, I want to
see you, Lance.
I I want to ask you this because, I don't want to dive too much just yet on the matchup. But as we're talking about, this, Pastor Tan, I think that one area where I think that you could see a really good matchup here is we can finally get a chance to see the number one corner against Brock Bowers. Because I think that, maybe given someone of the wide receiver room and with what they've shown, at least through 4 weeks, this wide receiver room, I think it seems like they could handle their own. But what do you feel about a Pastor Tan on a Brock Bowers situation, given with how Bowers is doing in the first 4 weeks?
Nope. No, I'm not saying he can't hold up, but I think that's an unnecessary risk to have him in there getting dirty. Because, think about where he's going to line up, right? If Bowers isn't split out, if he's offline, then, it's just having him on the tight end. I get it because, doing that with Kelsey would make sense. But let's go back to Super Bowl 50 here. We didn't necessarily always line up, the elite corner up against Olsen. We bracketed him a lot and did different concepts to complicate that. I don't want PS2 sticking his nose in it, in the scrum and having to fight through a bunch of stuff on run plays while also he's got to tackle that dude if he catches it. And no, I'd rather that be a safety or a linebacker, and PS2 could help. He could be additional help on some of those plays, but I don't want him being the primary guy expected to hold it down.
Yeah. Moving forward with the offensive side of the ball, we touched on it briefly with Bo. Obviously the wide, it seems like the wide receiver position is still leaving a little bit to be desired. That said, though, you gotta if Mike is watching the stream, look, we're gonna say that phrase again. You gotta give the flowers, and that would be to Cortland Sutton these last couple weeks. He has actually played really, really well. He's really emerged, and I think that especially what it seems like he's actually bought in. It seems like he's actually bought into where this team is right now, to where I think that and we've had this conversation before. Do I think he's a wide receiver one? No, I think he's a capable wide receiver too. But I think it's going to get to the point where he'll at least show his worth for the Broncos under Sean Payton, where you can have him on the team, but you still need a viable wide receiver one on there. And I think that just overall, the lack of playmaking is leaving a lot to be desired. And frankly, I'm desperate for a playmaker.
I think we need to make a move at the trade deadline for someone. Yeah. Just give Bo some additional weapon. There's no way they would trade him in division, but I would honestly give up a second for Devontae Adams yesterday. It's not going to happen just at all, but I'm with you. I feel like we got to do something here. And I think there's going to be some guys available. T. Higgins is a name I've seen thrown around a lot. There's also one that I don't remember who this was. There's a name that I've seen mentioned consistently. Deontay Johnson. Is he didn't they just trade him to Carolina?
Yeah, they did.
I don't think he's going to be traded anytime soon, but I keep seeing his name mentioned as someone we could go after. And I'm like,
he's a rental right now. I think he's in his last year of his deal, and I don't think he has an appetite to re-sign there.
Oh, in the offseason, 100%. I was thinking it was let's trade for Deontay Johnson. That's not going to happen.
If he's not going to re-sign there, and Carolina's not going anywhere, that would be wise of them to recoup some type of compensation for him. So
they
should, but it's Carolina. I don't know if I would trust that they would.
The other, there are actually a kind of a handful of players that are kind of catching my eye a little bit, I should say. And I say a handful because it goes to show you how desperate I am for a playmaker. Kyle Pitts is one that I'm very much interested in. Mark Andrews is certainly one, and given the emergence of Isaiah Likely, wouldn't hurt to, have a phone call with that one. And then, Amari Cooper, they restructured his contract, or they kind of like shaved his contract all the way down and kind of made it a bit tradable. So Amari Cooper, would kind of make sense if you want to actually go after and acquire Amari. And then obviously, given the current state of the Tennessee Titans, there's 2 wide receivers that are probably worth trading for. And that would be the young Treylon Burks, if they were wanted to go down that road for like a young kind of weapon, if you will, much like Pitts to a degree. And then DeAndre Hopkins. Could you imagine a DeAndre Hopkins here, kind of given with what they need and what they've actually been lacking, if you will, as far as a yak monster? Like, I mean, because I feel like, specifically for this offense, they desperately need a yak monster. And DeAndre Hopkins really would be so exciting. And I think that there is a way, maybe depending on the compensation, where you might be able to swing a trade for Kyle Pitts and a trade, for another weapon, just in terms of just overall pick swaps. I don't foresee it being a player for a guy like Kyle Pitts, because like at this point and with the way things are shaping up, like it's just about a change in scenery, I feel like at this point. And so like you're probably talking between maybe like a 5th to a 6th round draft pick, maybe a 4th, but a 5th to a 6th round draft pick for Kyle Pitts. So I'm in dire need of a playmaker. Let's make it happen. Matty.
There's a player I want that you haven't mentioned.
Oh.
On a team that's going nowhere fast. One Christian Kirk would be phenomenal in this offense. You say yak monster. It's easier to get yards after the catch when you lead the NFL in separation, which he does. And you know who else is top 10? Their rookie, Thomas Jr., is also on that list. And like, they're still not paying that off. And they're 0-4. That team's not going anywhere. It would not surprise me if Christian Kirk was on the trade block and they got something for him. So
I was going to say, I like that Christian Kirk idea.
Yeah.
Specifically because like Brian Thomas Jr. just continues to show out and prove that he should be kind of their number one guy. And I understand like they're totally right in that, but I think Kirk has been kind of phased out a little bit.
What about Evan Ingram?
And I would be so down for Christian Kirk in Denver.
I think Evan Ingram just signed an extension, didn't he?
Isn't he also injured?
Yeah, he's been injured since week 1.
Yeah.
But that's or maybe the Broncos, given the landscape in the NFL, kind of watch what the Miami Dolphins are doing and maybe get a little bit aggressive, if you will, and go out and get some Jalen Waddle, right? Or you trade for, this is very aggressive, by the way. But you trade for Jalen Phillips and you stash him for a whole year and you put him in our room.
I don't know what the answer is for Miami. It's so bad. Yeah. Like they need Snoop to be that guy in the worst way. And he looked atrocious.
You got to be accurate.
I don't think that's possible.
You got to be accurate with this. It's Pro Bowl quarterback Snoop Huntley.
Yeah, but it's also Hall of Fame quarterback Kendall Hinton.
But overall, as we move forward with this game and with this Broncos and Raiders game, let me preface it by this way. This is shaping up, I really do feel like, a trap game right now. And I hate to say this, but the way that it is shaping up from my point of view, look, you got the circus that's been happening right now with Devontae Adams. You've got, the situation maybe that's going to end up, worth watching with, Max Crosby, whether he is or isn't going to play. The Broncos were, at least at the time, seemed like they were in really good shape to, beat the Raiders in week 1 of last year. That never materialized, never happened. It just seems like there's games for the Broncos when shakes out with the Raiders, it feels like they should be victories, but they're not. And it ends up being a little bit of a dogfight. And specifically when you've had games with the Raiders where they've had your number for 8 straight games, like at some point that's really got to break, and things are going to have to go in your favor.
I mean, didn't the Chiefs have our number for a number of games that I don't want to remember right now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you never know. But I think this game is going to come down heavily to the defense on both sides of the ball, and not having Max Crosby allegedly for now on that defensive line for the Raiders is going to be a huge difference. And if we can keep up our pass rush and keep up what we've kind of seen from the secondary as well, like, I think this is going to be a good game. The biggest thing that scares the hell out of me right now, to be honest, like Brock Bowers looks like arguably the best tight end in the NFL right now.
Sam Laporta.
The bar is not high because every other tight end has looked atrocious, except for finally Travis Kelce existed last week after they lost Rashee Rice. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be the biggest test, I think. Jacoby Myers is also not a bad wide receiver. Like, by no means is Jacoby Myers bad. I mean, he's about to get Surtain. He's going to get the Surtain treatment, and he's going to be probably just non-existent. But I think this will be a fun game. I can't wait for us to hopefully finally beat the Raiders. And I'm not going to say that that's what's going to happen. You never know. But I think we'll get an entertaining game, to say the least. Gardner Minshew, I like you, but in advance, I'm just going to apologize because you're probably going to be in the hospital.
Matty, you kind of sat back a little bit, enjoying the show from Brandon. What's your take?
All right. So it's hard to be a trap game in division. Division games are always, it's tough in division regardless, right? And there's hatred there. Like a trap game could be like if we're playing Jacksonville and we were rolling, right? And like they're 0-4, whatever, and we've just won 2 in a row. Like maybe that I could buy. Raiders, there's too much hate there. They want to make a statement. Given all of this, right? It opened at 1.5. We're only 2.5 point favorites. So what Vegas is saying right now, and the players probably know this, right? That you get 3 points just for being at home. So it's essentially right now Vegas saying that the Raiders are the better team than the Broncos, which obviously I know like handle and all of that stuff matters too, but 2.5 isn't enough for the current situation with what the Broncos look like and what the Raiders look like. So either Vegas casinos, the bookmakers, not the team, know something that we don't know, or this is egregiously like off. And I think it's the latter in this case. We're not expecting to just walk out and win, but we are going to walk out and like, we're going to feel good. Everybody loves these fits. This is the only time this year we're getting to rock the 1977.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like,
dude, I'm so hyped.
Which is why I've got all this, like all.
It's gonna look so
and now good. We've gone back-to-back weeks without allowing a sack. I don't know how the Raiders are going to get pressure. I could see Bo Nix running for 60 plus yards in this game. He's going to get loose. I'm not saying that this is going to be the Drew Lock Houston Texans equivalent, but I am going to say that people are like, man, this kid Bo Nix, maybe he is actually confident. Maybe we don't have to question it every freaking week. Like, I do think there are going to be some questions that are answered. I'm going to go ahead and say it's 23-13 Broncos. Okay. I don't foresee any way that this is a trap. The team's bought in. They're winning games, even though it's ugly. it's not going to have to be so ugly this week.
I will say, like, the performance of Bo, and like, obviously we touched briefly on Bo, and I think people are really butchering that whole, and Brandon talked about this, but like, they are really butchering this Jets game and really overthinking this Jets game, basically to the point where they're just hating on the rookie quarterback when they don't need to, and especially, and as Brandon even mentioned, like, you had Aaron Rodgers even come out and basically said it was a monsoon in MetLife Stadium. So if a 40-year-old quarterback is basically saying that it was a monsoon and even he struggled in the rain, probably means that, you should kind of lighten up a little bit on the rookie quarterback. That said, I mean, he's making the plays that, when it matters. Shout out to Cody Rourke, Mile High Sports. He made a really good video talking specifically about the progress Bo has been making. There's a dagger concept on that 3rd and 11 that he missed against the Seattle Seahawks. He basically goes forward and does the exact same concept against the Jets, a much better defense, if you will, and actually throws a dart, not a noodle arm. Been a lot of discussion about that. But, he throws a dart to Cortland Sutton, and that is one of the key moments, if not the key moment of the entire game. So I think where I'm going with this is to kind of piggyback off of what Matty's saying is, do I think this is going to be that Raider game? Where, it all kind of comes together for him, where you get memories and flashbacks of that Lock Texans game. I don't know. But the way of his performance and the way things have been shaping up for Bo, and him kind of stacking some days, even though it may seem small, it's getting to the point where he might end up having a 4 to 5 touchdown game before we know it. And when I'm saying that, I'm saying like 3 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. Like it's going to get to the point where, he will have a game. And I think that specifically, if it can get to that point for the Broncos, is where it falls in line with the wide receiver room. I think the Raiders play a lot of man coverage. So the wide receivers are going to have to win off the line, basically from, better than they have in the last 4 weeks. I mean, they should have, for the first 4 weeks, but they got to do a better job here against the Raiders. And if they're able to do that and create that separation, I think you will have much better windows and quick processing with Bo. Then I think there's a chance that, he could have a huge game, meaning Bo and that wide receiving core.
Yeah. I think this is going to be, I don't know. I don't really know what to think about this game. I feel like it's going to be close and not close at the same time. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like 13-21 Denver.
Wait, why do you go to reverse them? Like 21-13 Denver. Why do you be like 13?
I had to think through the numbers as I said them. I was like, you know what? Vegas could get a touchdown and maybe 2 field goals. So that would come out to 13. And then I could see a path where we could get a rushing touchdown, whether that's a running back or Bo, and maybe even 2, and both was another touchdown. I had to think through the math as I was saying it. Okay. No, it'd be 21-13 Denver. But I think it'd be interesting. Like, it's going to be a fun game for sure. It depends again on, who actually is able to suit up for Las Vegas just right away. Not having, as far as I've seen, I don't know if this was like 100% confirmed, but I saw a report that Adams is not playing due to his hamstring. I don't know if that's like foolproof, as in like that can't change, but I would assume he is most likely not playing. The rest of the injury report for Vegas looks brutal, and the Broncos are relatively healthy. So I think this is going to be a fun game. I'm excited to see Bo Nix hopefully get back into a rhythm like he showed against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2 games ago, and doesn't have to play in a monsoon. So I am super hyped to see that. And then also just these jerseys, man, these throwback jerseys are going to be chef's kiss.
Yeah. I'm hoping for a good game. I think that there is a window where they could win this game 31-13. Like there is a window where that can happen, and so if it all comes together where they can, once again, like all the Pistons are firing, the defense and the offense to what we got a chance to see with the Tampa Bay game, except for you don't want field goals, you want to put it in the end zone. I mean, you're talking about a 30-point output, and I don't want to say it's a bold prediction because it's not a bold prediction, but I will make a prediction here that we will see both quarterbacks in this Raiders game, meaning we will see both Gardner Minshew and we will see both Aiden O'Connell in this game.
That'd be interesting. That would, I wouldn't be surprised because I think whoever starts is going to get wrecked.
And be inefficient.
Yeah.
And probably throw a pick. I think this is going to be the first game of the year we're getting 2 picks from the secondary.
Here's
Riley Moss pick?
Maybe.
Oh man, and if he mosses somebody to do it, oh my god.
If Riley Moss bosses someone to get an interception, that's all I want.
Here's something that I don't think we haven't talked about here, and I don't think enough people are talking about. Like apparently Crosby's not happy. Damian, you can correct me if I'm wrong here.
Who is happy?
Right? But Crosby kind of held them hostage, saying that you have to hire Pierce or
he vouched for him.
And Devontae Adams last year vouched for him. And the thing is, like, if those guys who were so incredibly behind him no longer are, how much of the rest of the locker room has he lost? Yeah.
It's going to certainly be, worth watching. I mean, like there's a lot to unpack with what's going on with the Raiders right now. I mean, they're dysfunctional with a capital D.
Just another day in Las Vegas.
Right. And it's a case where what stays in Vegas is not staying in Vegas.
Bro, there are a lot of doctors in penicillin that would say otherwise. So,
so transitioning into one of our other new favorite segments that we like to have a conversation about, and that is, college prospects that kind of caught our eye within the last, handful of, weeks. And I feel like we've said his name already more than we need to. But how good is this Ryan Williams kid, man? Like he made a play as a 17-year-old that was actually as good, and better than the Braxton Miller play, which was the famous spin move, right? That Braxton did in college. That move that he put on both Georgia defensive backs, it was like almost looking like, you're seeing like a the NBA, and with like, Steph Curry and, Kyrie Irving, with how they have handles. Like that's like watching something like that, but with a football player. Like the guy is just unreal.
There were 2 catches in the same game that were, in my opinion, out of this world. There was that one, and the juggle catch. And this kid's 17 years old.
Bro, if you asked him who he's voting for, he would respond, "I can't."
Exactly.
Like what? I just looked it up because I'm like, I knew he was 17. February 9th, 2007.
We're old.
February.
I think my beard just got a little bit more gray.
Like, he's still at the point where he's like, I'm 17 and a half, bro. Like,
you tell me someone was born in 2007, I'm picturing a baby.
Dog, yeah. What the heck is going on here? And that guy, he would be a first-round pick.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's crazy is like that's not just the other freshman that's been balling out this year. I mean, and in fact, like there was another wide receiver who, if Ryan Williams didn't do what he did against Georgia, Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State would be getting all the publicity for the catch.
Jeremiah Smith is super good.
would be, getting all the publicity for what he was able to, do. What were they playing? Michigan State. He had a one-handed, catch for, I don't know if it was a touchdown, but like he one-handed that and brought it in. Like, he's obviously may not be 17, but like
he's 18.
Yeah. But like still like the players that are coming in and being really good freshmen, and obviously, Matty,
true freshman.
Hawkins, right? The quarterback, if from Oklahoma. I mean,
Hawk Tua.
He basically, came in a kind of a hostile situation with Auburn and played, exceptionally well for, a game like that. Came away with a victory, and he certainly looked electric.
Dude, like that run he had on the first drive of the game, he was just pulling away from folks. Like, he could be a weapon. It's going to be a little ugly. Keep in mind, the Sooners are down their top 5 wide receivers. Their top 5.
Deion Burks is hurt too, right?
Running backs hurt. Tight end. We've had some linemen. Like, there's a reason why the offense looks this bad. I think Hawkins is going to be interesting moving forward, but that defense, oh my gosh, we got a defense in OU again.
Yeah.
We don't need a running back at all. And I would not spend a first-round pick on him, even though it would probably make me cry. But Ashton Genty is not human.
Oh man, can we talk? Like, we're like what, 5 weeks?
5 weeks, and he has 845 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns.
Like, he's basically, college football 25 stats through like 5 weeks. Like,
he's high school Derrick Henry, but in college.
Right. I mean, like, those are video game type numbers. I mean, like, that is like, sliders in your favor. We're going to just run the ball and, basically give it to Genty. He is really good, man. Like, he is really good. To what you're talking about, Brent, he might be one of those running backs where like, I'm spending a first round pick on a guy like that. Like, that's just like, it's over. I mean, maybe it's overreactionary, but like, just that's how good he is. Like,
is he a top 10 guy?
Maybe. I mean, like, Bijan Robinson, was like the kind of running back where you don't pass on a guy like that. Like, Genty is kind of getting to that level to a degree. You know what I mean? So it's impressive. And, yeah, it's really, really impressive to see.
How are you that good? I don't understand. Like, I would do things to have him on the Denver team. It's not possible, but if you could be a running back, holy shit. Anyway,
and actually the running back class in general,
and this is a really good running back class, and he is by far the best, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
The funniest thing is, and Matty, you can chime in. Like, the funniest thing is we say that now, and then watch, like, here comes probably a running back that ends up being, better of the bunch, Omarion Hampton, Khalil Mullings, Ollie Gordon, right? From Matty's other favorite school, and then, and then obviously they got the Judkins kid from Ohio State, and then the other one that's at Ohio State too, the Trevion Henderson. Like, they got both of them there. So I mean, like, so that this class is just loaded.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It is ridiculous.
So a lot of freshmen, a lot of youth. That's really rocking.
The youth movement is coming. Arch Manning continues to look like a Manning.
Is it Arch or is it Arc?
I've literally only heard it as Arch.
I've heard Arc and I've heard Arch.
You have not heard Arc.
I've not heard Arc at
Stop
all.
trying to make fetch happen. There are a lot of people like, wait, that's a Manning? A Manning ain't supposed to move like that.
Yeah. By the way, Matty, were you trying to lay up me talking about my quarterback? Is that kind of like what you were?
I mean, you could always feel free.
But I don't want to be a copycat. So
no, like Hawkins for sure. I do want to throw Danny Stutzman in the mix.
Yeah.
Leading one of the best defenses in the country, hostile environment all over the place. He wasn't the one that got the pick 6, but he was certainly everywhere else. Danny Stutzman, number 28 on the field, number 1 in your hearts.
Who do you guys have as Heisman Trophy winner right now? Is it Genty or is it Travis Hunter?
Travis Hunter.
It's too early. I can't say that now. Like,
well, I mean, as of this moment, if they're giving the award away today, it's Travis Hunter.
Dog, if Bama
obviously it can change.
If Bama runs the table, Milrose got it.
Yeah. It's so hard to ignore what Travis Hunter's doing right now, because it's just like, it's to a completely different degree, but it is almost like the Shohei Ohtani of what you're seeing. Like, it's just, he's being durable on both sides of the ball. And, each week when you think that, he's a better cornerback than he is a wide receiver, he goes out and he makes plays as a wide receiver that are like, maybe he is a better wide receiver than he is corner. And then he goes out and on a flat route, completely jumps a pass where it's just completely out of the blue. And, how did his instincts take over to where he recognizes, this play out of the flat and, picks it off. And that's not the first time he's done a play like that. Like, he did the play against TCU. He was able to break a pass up against, Nebraska. I think it was a screenplay. So, I mean, like, it is utterly insane what we're seeing on both sides of the ball from Hunter. I mean,
yeah, I think it's going to matter how they finish in that Big 12. It's early. They're going to have to prove it to me. I don't believe that. So, like, he's going to be good. He's going to be in New York for sure, or wherever they have the ceremony. But like, I just don't see him winning it over somebody like if Milroe, if they run the table. Like, I just don't see it.
Oh, I mean, probably. I'm just looking at it from what we've seen so far. That's who I like right now. That's what I'd give it to. Obviously, though, the ceremony is not right now. So things could change, but at the very least, I agree. He should at least be there in the running.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts about the Broncos, about, maybe a college prospect we didn't get a chance to, talk about? Or
Dylan Gabriel for the Ducks looks good.
Oh, yeah. Dylan Gabriel, that quarterback, the one who, was the quarterback with, what was the school before he went to Oregon?
I don't know.
Probably could use him.
What was the school?
Probably could use him right now. They're in the SEC right now. They have that one quarterback who ended up getting benched, I believe it was, for this freshman quarterback, because he's not been playing really well, but they probably could use him, over there. I forget.
I don't know. Where did he play last year?
Listen, he wanted to leave. It's fine. I don't have any ill will. Like, the guy beat Texas at the end of that game. More power to him. It's just, it kind of is what it is. I'm not a believer in Oregon. They're a paper tiger, and they're going to get punched in the mouth. So we'll see what happens with that.
So you heard it here first that he was never a Bo Nix fan. Wow. I'm kidding.
What did Bo Nix win at Oregon?
I mean, he didn't make it to the playoffs.
Football games.
He won some. Didn't win enough.
But this has been a fantastic show. Hopefully the Broncos could be able to, get that victory over the Raiders, and we can break that streak of eight games, of an 8-game losing streak. It's been a lot of fun. And to everybody that's been in the chat, Gonzo, to Jeff Bryan. Gonzo was in here. Damien, Raiders fan. Thank you so much for hopping in. It was actually a really good conversation and a chance to talk with you. Got a chance to obviously Big Mike, Wingstop's #1 fan. So it was, and Lance Sanderson was in the house. Make sure you go check out the podcast that he does. I believe it's Dove Valley Deep Divers over there on Mile High Huddle. So make sure you go check out his podcast. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Make sure you go hit that follow if you guys are on X, Twitter, whatever. Make sure you go hit the follow button on all three of us. That would be Matty Mulls Pod, at Matty Mulls Pod, at Brandon Miller PO, myself at Cameron Parker PO, and then of course we have the show handle at Manely Broncos. It's been an absolute blast. We will see you guys next Wednesday, same time, same bat channel, if you will, 7:30 Mountain Time over here on the MHRT Network.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Simcoe's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my